Hello, everybody. This is Morten from Inkish. Today, I have the pleasure of talking to my good friend Christoph from Printess in Germany. Christoph is, I think I can say without hurting his feelings, that he's a nerd in a good way. He's a programmer. He is a business developer. He is working with another guy that is also named Christoph. So I don't know how they get along when they get in a fight if they have the same name, because I don't know how many, but anyway, Christoph, good to see you and welcome here on English.
Hey, good to see you, Morten.
So how is it? To Christoph, is it a requirement to work in Printess? Is that if you're a male, you must be named Christoph, or you just force people to change names, or?
It can get even worse. We are both playing in a band, and we have now beside us 3 or 4 Stefans. So that's crazy. But yeah, sometimes in meetings you say, hey, when somebody asks somebody else and say, "Oh no, Christoph, this is not an identifier," but it actually works out pretty well. I'm sometimes surprised myself. We are kind of context related, so who's meant to answer. It works pretty well. Internally, actually, I call him Mr. Schach by his last name since ever, and many people do. So that's so I stayed the Christoph, and he's Mr. Schach.
Okay, and it's just for people to understand, that is actually very common in German, that even people that work closely together for years are by surname, right? So you are actually the one that is a little bit off standard, right?
Now that's ironic. So we never have with all the companies we were running over the years, and also we never had that idea that people are called by last names. Maybe they do that in some very conservative banks or so, but I think even there
Not
it should
anymore.
be over.
That's great. Printess, we have interviewed you a couple of times, and we've seen each other at the non-event a couple of times, and we have run into each other at different trade shows, sometimes being interviewed, sometimes not being interviewed. But I have followed Printess with interest, because I think that what you do is, of course, with your, let's say, background from first inventing Direct Smile, selling it off to then EFI, and then when you got your, I was just about to say in quotation, freedom back, you established Printess. And I remember I interviewed Mr. Schacht, and he had a Printess logo in the background, and he said, no, I cannot tell you anything about it. But over the years, since then, you have actually got customers, you are in the market, and maybe before we talk about some other interesting thing, maybe give us a little update. What is Printess, and what makes it different from the let's say, the competition?
So, and actually, I think it's a lot of experience with made it different. That's what I say. It's the key. So Printess is a company which actually is a very limited spectrum of things we sell. We do the whole design process, from building templates to configuring them on the e-commerce sites and caring for the production flow. So that's basically Printess. It's a narrow part of the game. So we are a white label integration product. And the reason why we are what we are is very simple. Over 20 years in the industry, we learned about what the customers are looking for, where the shortfalls are. And we wrote an editor, and we wrote another editor, and with Direct Smile we only had 4, and I did one more for EFI, and then but still there were things that didn't work out really well, like for example typography, one of the biggest nightmares. It never looks the same on screen like on print, and I now know why. It cost me 10 years to understand why it will never work. And what we did is actually we tried with Printess to solve all the issues we learned over the years. So that's the only thing we basically did, and now we learn new problems like the ones we talk now about. So that makes us so different, and this is actually what helps us now with customers. So we want to definitely break the vicious cycle of selling solutions that people don't need and overpay and don't make money with. So that's why we have complete different business model, which actually, if you don't make money, you don't pay us anything. So we don't want to sell at all. We want to solve problems. If we don't solve the problems, please don't be our customer, because it's not beneficial for for the customer nor for us. So it's both on technology side and on business side. We did quite a disruption in that industry, and we're continuing to develop great stuff and hopefully make more and more people happy.
I get that. Just to rewind a little bit, because when I talk to companies that are selling solutions, solutions is a very wide, let's say, saying. So let's put it in a box, because I mean, you are in a way an editor that you integrate to your web presence, right? So if you have a web to print shop and you need to have, let's say, a design tool that can help people getting things done, but you also define characters and content for these. So maybe explain a little bit about in detail. So if I say you're a web editor, that is too narrow, right?
So I think the biggest difference, honestly, what we did is we always run against walls with creating templates. The problem is that all our customers have their own ideas what they want to sell on the web, and this is very, very different. So it's very hard to just do all that with a single tool. So that's the reason why we are more an Adobe grade solution. So what we have done is we have built an Adobe InDesign kind of in the browser with all the flexibility. I say Adobe because Adobe, I just got the question yesterday in our support portal from a lead, and he said, I see only this is the products you offer. I have something different. I said, no, that's not the products we offer. That's just samples. You can do anything with it. And this is the main idea of Printess to do. That's the reason why we have the only editor thing, because you be able to create all the products like with InDesign. Can I do my kind of petrol station sign? Yeah, you can do. Can I also do my cookie sign? Yeah, you can do that as well. So imagine that's an interesting discussion, but it should not be the discussion for a design tool. So it's a versatile thing, and the only reason, so the next question would be, why do you do that? Because we already have InDesign and we have other tools. And the answer is that these tools also all lacking the bridge from the design process to the shop process, to the user who then have a very easy tool where you can just click a couple of buttons and get their configuration done. To break this down from a complex design to an easy end user interface. This is basically why we had to go the complete journey from start to finish in a way.
But that also means that by having these, let's say, very modularity built into the product, is basically saying that, let's say that I want to do a coffee mug, then I only have the tools that are needed for a coffee mug. If I need a brochure with 16 pages, then I need a different tool set for that. So for each product you create, you can customize the editor for that product. Is that correctly understood?
Yeah, and it's even further. We just now we will now launch a new UI and Q1, and we constantly working on the following fact. Let me take your example. If I do a mark, I basically have one page. So the system knows, hey, there is one page. So that should automatically lead to a different user interface. If I create a photo book and I have 16 pages, the thing knows that there are 16 pages. So that actually gives you a different interface. And we actually work now on photo books, for example, to have a clear button saying this is a photo book, because you need different tooling then. So the idea is, depending on the product, you just create the user interface in your shop will adjust to that appropriately. And that's what we're working hard on to get it done.
Fantastic. What I'm asking you now relates a little bit back to also what we're going to talk about in a moment. If I think back of the first time I saw these variable data in sand and in city lives, or I mean on footballs and anything, you really understand how images are built, right? I mean, you really understand how you make those parameters variable into that context. That is part of also, let's say, the secret sauce of Printess, is that background gives you a lot of understanding on how designs actually. I was just about to say on the pixels operate, or how would you explain?
Yeah, no, it's more like on the PDF, honestly. So that's the difference. So when with the image personalization, so Printess is not the reinvention of Direct Smile, not at all.
No.
And
no. Sorry, that was not what I was thinking.
Okay.
I was just thinking that, okay, let me break it. We're going to talk about that the European Union is suggesting or have made a law about accessibility, meaning that people with disabilities like blind or hearing disabilities, all kind of disabilities, needs to be able to use B2C software online. So, for example, that blind people can create a photo book. So now, in that context, when I ask you, I know that Printess is not the same as Direct Smile, but with the knowledge you have from both Direct Smile and Printess, that is why you may have a solution that can help people with this getting over with managing the Disability Act. Is that correct?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, definitely. Deep technical understanding here helps, definitely. I would just not. It's the one thing is definitely user interface. That's about accessibility, so that we allow all people of all kinds to use the product. And the European Union, I think, did a good job to enforce actually W3C web standards to be kind of become a law, which is good. It's like it would be even better if they really take care on that all the cornerstones on the streets are so low that I can use my wheelchair to go over it. But anyhow, that's a start to start with the web. Their idea is coming more from web tech. So they say, do your website sufficiently so that allows everybody to understand. And honestly, it's an interesting discussion, because when I thought about it, I realized that many of the pages already are pretty accessible. Why? Because Google is enforcing it. So that's very interesting. So Google does kind of a world policy job for accessibility since years. They say, if you don't have the description in the proper way that a blind people and a screen reader can actually tell it to you, I will not list your product in the search ranking. And this is what they're doing for years. So in the e-commerce space, a lot of things have already become reality. I was just thinking about, big companies, governments. In that case, it actually worked out. But
I was asking because when I was contacted by Bernd Zipper last week, Friday, about this, at first, as I said to you also in the beginning, at first I was like, oh, this sounds like a challenge. It also sounds like for the very few. It sounds like something that can be difficult to implement shortly. And then he said, but I should also talk to you. He said, so is that more because that you have already, because of Google and because of the standardization, already built in a lot of these, let's say, requirements into Printess? Or is it because you have some ideas on how to make it easier for, let's say, all the ones that have not complied to it yet?
So where we are. So it is a super interesting topic for our industry, and we'll definitely elaborate on that. With Bernd, and he put this as on top for the OPS as an important issue. And so Munich, the online print symposium, everybody's welcome to visit. It's actually the one of a kind show in the industry. I like it a lot because it's very entertaining. All the talks are good. And the thing is, why it's so important is, I think that's why I refer to the Google thing. So a lot of these things are already in place. But when they did this law, they not really realized how different the applications on the web are. So a lot of these, when you read through all the criteria, you come to, if I have my website and I put an audio in, I should have a description. If I have an image, I should have a description so that the blind people can see that. Absolutely fine. If I have now let's talk about the editor. If I have an editor where I can insert some stickers and move things around on his canvas, do you really believe a blind person will do that? This is the question. Then they say you should enforce contrast, and then always have to be contrast. So let's say I'm selling artworks and I can select the frame if it's wood or plastic. Should I talk to all my artists to say you need to bring a little bit more contrast in the images, because otherwise the colorblind cannot see. So that's the point. I think that's not the intention of the law. It can never be. And this is what I think that the whole law is falling a little short, because I personally support and I totally understand the intention to say a blind person should be able to order a photo book, no matter if he or she can see the photos. But should a blind person be able to use the same tool like a person with vision? This is like what I doubt, especially because now we have artificial intelligence. We have a huge way of great tools we can provide to help these people. I think for people with disabilities, the times were never better than now, and they're getting better every day. Disabilities stay, of course. That's a pain, but the tooling and the helps they get it's immense.
So unfortunately, this also leads back to, I had a conversation with Brent Zipper earlier this morning. So that also leads back to that sometimes it's because we as an industry don't have enough lobbying in order to actually be involved in the process of what is what can we do and what can be made better in order to basically accommodate the changes. So because I mean, if you have a clothing shop, that is probably very different from running a print shop with photo books or whatever, right? So that is part of the same discussion, basically.
But when I read in the legislation, and the problem is what the lawyer told us, that the authority was actually in charge of telling people on request if this applies to their certain case is not built right now. So there is no one you can ask, which is kind of a really interesting story. They made the legislation, but they don't have the authority. Yeah. When you read in the text of the law, it sounds a lot like, you know what, we want to have inclusion, but we don't want to harm people, to build things which are it requires super high effort and doesn't make any sense, and even maybe destroy the solution. Let's say there were a lot of things in the accessibility guidelines, like zoom to 200%. Just imagine you have any configurator or editor in the world. You ask me if we solved all the problems. Let me say any whatever you saw in your life on any website with configuring a print product, and then you zoom into 200%. You can imagine what happens on your mobile phone. You might see 3 buttons, and then you should configure your print product. Yeah. There are contradictory things in that thing, which means the whole guidelines from the W3C consortium are fine for information or e-commerce websites. They were actually never meant to cover applications in that degree, graphic applications, because all the configuration tools, besides the very simple ones, if I have only a selection A, B, C and enter your name and press purchase, that can be is right. Even from now on, we are 100% compliant with that. It depends really how deep you go with the editability. A complete photo book editor where people spend a week to arrange images, like in InDesign. Is InDesign completely inclusive, for example? It is not really. But and this is where I think we will definitely work towards to take the core. That's my opinion, to say, yeah, it should be inclusive 100%, and we should do that very great, and we have the tools today to do that. It might be not the absolute same path, but also if I have vision, why should I not tell my system, make me a photo book, make it beauty, take a summer theme, and off you go. And this is where definitely Printess is heading towards.
And that was what I meant before, because I mean, basically every time something is put on your, let's say, requirement list, often that opens up for new opportunities. Like you say, before AI was commonly used, you could not suggest a prompt for describing a photo book, right? Today, everybody is using prompts for describing all kinds of things. So why shouldn't that just be an added value to the product, not just for the people with disabilities, but for everybody? That's how you see it, right?
Yeah, this is one point exactly. And talking about disabilities, the prompt writing is, I tell the AI what they should do. That's the one part of the story. But look at the other part, which is crazy, because just take a screenshot of any application and ask ChatGPT, for example, what do you see? And you will be overwhelmed.
Can it do that now?
It can do it right now, and and it works, and it's amazing how detailed it is. So what I ask myself is, this is kind of okay, let me just put it not too nerdy, but actually the answer it's a technical guideline, so it has also a lot of nerdiness to it. So on the one hand, I got a screen reader of the next generation, a screen reader which not only can read text like the Avaya text or some HTML text and say this is a headline. No, it just let ChatGPT look on the screen and says, wow, that seems to be an edit. And we tried that. We tried it with a friendship mug. It was amazing because it tells, okay, that is seems to be a configuration tool where you see two girls facing the back to you. One is wearing a shirt, one is wearing trousers, one holding a glass of orange juice, one champagne. And then on the right hand side, we see configuration options. I can actually set the background, I can enter the names, and if I click next and add ChatGPT, I probably be able to configure the first girl. This is just amazing. It is really amazing. It tells you everything like somebody who sits beside you and explains you what you see on the screen.
It also
sorry, yeah.
No, it also sometimes there's always this question: what comes first, development or legislation? And I think there is this is a technology development that is actually maybe even further than the legislators can even think of, right? And that, of course, also is interesting to think of, because that basically means that bridge is super, super interesting, right? To think of, right?
Absolutely, and it goes further, because when you look at the screen, the language model or the AI cannot see everything. So what we actually technically need would be an extension of the new capabilities, which were not there when they made the law. Absolutely right. Yeah. Plus some metadata, which is different metadata like now, to say, hey, this is what you see, but you know what? These are the exact options that are available for the customer. So the disabled person can use the tool to learn what's on the screen, but also get some metadata. And this is a little bit different metadata than like today. It would be like not an ARIAS standard like the W3C, but for AI augmented information, to say, hey, I know that you see everything, but a couple of things you don't see because they're not visible. And this is the reason why I tell this to you, so you can actually put that to your equation as well and help people. And that would actually really be great for allowing people with limited visibility to use all the tools. And I'm wondering if we be able to achieve that without that. My fear is, everybody is building or extending software to a degree, but all the disabled people they're not stupid, they just can't see. So what will they do? They will use the AI instead of waiting for whatever.
But that is, I think that is maybe the very best takeaway to at least think of, and that is that because you have a disability doesn't mean. I can tell you, Christoph, just to put it, I know it's totally different, but just to put it in perspective, sometimes when we do interviews on English, and let's say that if I should do an interview with a French customer, then I understand 15% French, 20%, right? And I speak maybe 5% French, right? So of course that is a challenge, but that doesn't mean that I'm dumb just because I can't speak French. But what happens in the industry is often then we just speak English because that has become our common language. And of course, people that have a disability, basically, maybe they have stronger other, let's say, senses and emotions, things like that they can use for actually even understanding things that we may not even be able to understand. And the reason I say this is just because I'm just wondering sometimes if legislation, and we don't have to have a long discussion about it, you could just shortly answer this, but is legislation at all necessary here, or will AI actually take over that, let's say, requirements even before it can be implemented?
Yeah, can be, definitely could be. They will have the tools. You know what? Let me give you a technical answer. The biggest limitation for us as software vendors, and it's not only us, it's all the others, because there's a security limitation. So when I'm running a tool on my computer, and this tool is my daily tool, would help me to understand what I see, what should see. Then this tool can actually scan everything and help me and support me. If I am the website, the shop itself, I will not be able to build this tool, no matter how capable I am as a developer, because I don't have the rights, the access rights for grabbing the information I would need to tell it to the AI for good reason. This is why I definitely see that there will be a meter tool solving a lot of these issues. I'm 100% sure. Honestly, if you ask me now, I'm 100% sure, and maybe it's already there, because I think they are moving fast. If you have these disabilities, you are so much into, I want to see the world with my eyes, and I want to access information, and I'm quite sure that is a lot of people on that. So that means that there are some things can be easily done for that people and for certain software on a computer, but very hard sometimes in the application itself. So, but actually, yeah, as I mentioned, we will also elaborate on that on the online print symposium.
I was just about to ask you.
Hopefully get there.
So at online print symposium, are you speaking, or are you just showing off in the sponsor lounge? I was about to say.
Actually, yeah, we are sponsoring, and actually this is the reason why we not speak. But we might speak in a panel to the legislation thing. No, not at a role as Printess, but
but as
at a role as people who are actually dealing with these challenges. And I can tell you the challenges are huge, because it is actually not about the people with disabilities. It is also not about the legislation itself, which, when I read through the law, doesn't sound as harsh, because really they say they don't want to harm anyone. Do it if you can do it. But also, we are facing as a company requests from larger corporations. We have, as Printess, we're working with quite some large companies, and they have legal departments, and these legal departments asking, what's your say? And this is right now, it's hard to answer, because there are so many questions when it comes to our industry of online configuration.
That's true.
But we have to give.
I am sure that people that will go and meet you and the team in Munich in just a couple of weeks will have 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks, plenty of opportunities to learn more. And one thing is, of course, all the things we've been talking about now in relation to disability and accessibility. But go and check out what Printess does also for their living, because that is really cool software and something that might be giving you an opportunity to step into the so-called creators economy. I think that's the final word for what we're doing, right?
That's pretty true. Yeah. Everybody should have the chance to do that.
Christoph, it was super great talking to you. So thank you very much for your time here on Inkish. And I will unfortunately not be able to be personally in Munich, but my colleagues will. So please tell them all the things I don't know, so I can learn when I get home.
Sure. Thank you very much, Morten, for having me.
No, always fun. So and say hi to the team, of course, right?
Do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.